Going on, everybody? Welcome to week 6 of the Fantasy Life. As always, I'm the Big AC, Andy Chevalier, here with Coach DaCosta coming in via satellite. Coach, what's going on? What's with the mobile cam?
I'm in Minnesota for a work conference for the week, so the surface is not working. I don't know why the NFL sponsors them. It sucks, but gotta go. Gotta make it work.
Coach is all the way in Minnesota. Jeez. Enjoy the weather, I guess. I don't know what to say to that. Got a new scenery in the background, Coach. Too many people complaining about the Yankees memorabilia. Not my choice. Got the new Red Sox background. Hopefully that increases our demographic of fans.
I mean, I'm liking it already. I already feel a little bit more at home, even though I'm out here in the Midwest.
All right, Coach. Hey, Coach, how'd you do after week 5? How'd you do?
After week 5, I went 1-2 in my 3 leagues. I finally won in my main league. I'm 1-4 with a big victory there to Andre Ellington, Eddie Royal, Vincent Jackson. Actually not Eddie Royal. That was 2 weeks ago, but Vincent Jackson had a big week for me. T.Y. Hilton. I played him this Thursday, so week 6 is already starting to look good. So not too shabby. Not too shabby.
Coach, I kind of ran into pretty big monster game. I ran into Andre Ellington last week. I ran into Golden Tate last week. I ran into Kiri Robinson last week. I ran into Andrew Luck last week. Wasn't really my week to win. Had a couple of guys who did well. T.Y. and Reggie combined for about 25. Antonio Brown was all right, double digits. Started the Lions D, which was a really good DST start, but 1-4 in this league, Coach. Made a big trade that I want to talk to you about in just a little bit, but let's talk about our hits and misses from week 1. What were some of our misses, Coach?
I mean, for me, Roddy White. I said start the Falcons, start all your Giants. Really wasn't everybody, but Roddy White promised us a guarantee for a touchdown, and instead he gave us 26 yards on 2 catches. So not really a good a good game from him.
That was a weird game. Like for a 30-20 game, you just really thought that was going to be a lot different. Larry Donnell didn't touch the ball. Roddy White had just an awful game. Julio Jones didn't even catch a touchdown. He had a pretty good game. PPR leagues, 11 catches for 105. Matty Ice had only 1 throwing touchdown. That was just a very, very weird game. But it was the debut of ODB, Odell Beckham Jr. We're going to talk more about him in just a bit, Coach. Another thing we were really off on, Marquise Wheaton, virtually just not even in the stat column. Coach, what happened?
For whatever reason, when you played the Jag, it was a closer game than people anticipated. Antonio Brown only had about 30-some yards, too. Whatever reason, the Jag secondary was holding Big Ben and his receivers down tight. Even their touchdown was allowed to their backup tight end. Wasn't even to Heath Miller. So it was a really, just like in New York in the Meadowlands, a really funky game out there with Pittsburgh and Jacksonville.
Marquise Wheaton only 1 catch for 17 yards. Gross. Not what you're expecting when you're facing the Jags, that's for sure. We did get some stuff right, though, Coach. I'm going to start with my bold prediction of the week that Roy Halou would have outscored Alfred Morris, and he did, Coach. Not by a lot. It was a pretty bad game for both running backs. Roy Halou, he didn't have anything on the ground. In fact, -1 on the ground. But he did have 5 catches for 59 yards. So we got you double digits in PPR leagues. Alfred Morris, though, oh my gosh. Less than, I think, 30 yards on the ground. He was just awful. Just shows that you can't start running backs against Seattle. Is that what it shows?
Really against the NFC West, all 4 of those defenses, they prevent the run, but definitely against Seattle, the Butler did not show up. He is on vacation, it sounds like. So, no, did not perform well. Those Redskins, other than Deshaun Jackson, really haven't been showing up for a couple of weeks now.
It's always one of the wide receivers does well against Seattle. It's never both. It's always one. You just don't know which one. It was the home run guy in Deshaun Jackson. How about another home run guy? Let's talk about Saints. Kiri Robinson, you were dead on about him, Coach.
Yes, sir. He had a nice game. He had about 90 yards before that last run. And then all of a sudden in overtime, a game-winning touchdown. Gave you about 15, 16 points depending on your formats. And, it was really nice to get a guy like Robinson, a guy you probably drafted late, or maybe picked up off wires if you had Ingram, plugged him in as your RB2 and flex, and he produced for you. So hopefully you got a W this week by plugging him in.
Also, if you listen to us about sitting Monte Ball this week, did not like him at all. He just looked like absolute garbage. He actually even got hurt that game, Coach, against Arizona. Ronnie Hillman came in, 15 carries, 64 yards, kind of added a little bit of energy. What do you think of Ronnie going forward?
For me, I'm not a big fan of Ronnie Hillman. If you remember last year, Monty Ball got benched and Hillman got benched because they could not protect the number one thing in Denver, which is Peyton Manning. If you cannot pass protect Peyton Manning, you will be benched regardless of your production. Moreno did it last year, and he started to produce, and both things were a win for LeSean. But Ronnie Hillman's going to keep this starting spot. He's going to keep Peyton upright, and I don't think he does that long term. This week, a good play, but I don't think he does that long term.
Let's keep talking about Ronnie Hillman, and you said you liked him this week. He's actually one of my two guys I'm really trying to put in all my starting lineups next week. He's facing the New York Jets, and everyone's like, oh, all the Jets can do is stop the run. Keep in mind, they just let up over 180 total offensive yards against the Chargers' fourth-string running back in Brandon Oliver. This guy's nothing special, okay? The Jets' defense, awful. The rush defense is better than their secondary, yes, but the rush defense isn't just untouchable. Expect Ronnie Hillman, especially in PPR leagues, to have a pretty good week this week. I made it a point to try to get this guy in as many leagues as I possibly could. If he wasn't already on my team, which I actually had him on a couple of teams, hoping Monte Ball would get injured. Try to get him in every waiver priority I could. If not, I tried to trade to get him. I really like him this week, and I think if this week and the next week, if he does good enough, he shows that energy that the running game is clearly lacked. Denver's been second to last in rushing in the NFL this season. I think Ronnie Hillman could win this job. Is that just crazy to think, Coach?
I don't think it's crazy to think. You have the three-headed monster out there right now with Juwan Thompson and C.J. Anderson, Ronnie Hillman, and Anderson was a healthy scratch last week. So honestly, who knows? You're gambling, and if you bet right, it's going to pay off dividends. I think this week, the Jets were embarrassed last week. They're, as always, in the news for different things. They're going back home, but they're going against Peyton Manning, and we don't have to go into in detail, but a fantastic offense with Denver. And what people aren't talking about is last week, the Jets have a great front seven, but they lost 3 guys last week due to injury in that front seven, and 2 of those 3 are coming back this week. So I'm not so high on Hillman, but they're going to pay more attention than you guys like Emmanuel Sanders, Wes Welker, DT, Julian, everybody over there. So I don't think Hillman is a must-play in my opinion, but he's not a bad play either. I think he gets about 70 yards, and you're hoping for a touchdown. And if you don't get one, well, 7 points in your flex isn't the worst thing in the world.
I think he's going to be a lot like Matt Asiata this year. He's not going to get you the 100-yard game at all on the ground, but he's going to get you 60 on the ground and like 5 or 6 catches for 30 or 40. And that's your double-digit score right there, which is all you can really want from your RB2, your flex play. You can't really be asking for too much more than that. I like Hillman. In fact, I like all of the Broncos this week. Sanders, DT, Julius Thomas are obvious starts, but I really like Wes Welker this week too. He's a team that he just does not like being with the Pats and the Jets. Welker's getting his first touchdown this week in New York. Let's keep it in New York, Coach. What do you think of Andre Williams? Rashad Jennings finally got hurt. The guy gets hurt every year. You just knew it was bound to happen. Andre Williams gets his start, and he is going in the game. What do you think of Andre Williams this week? It's a pretty great matchup against Philly, right?
It's a fantastic matchup against Philly, who are getting crushed in the passing game. So they want to focus a little bit more on that, which means maybe there's more running lanes out there for Andre Williams. But regardless whether they're working on it or not, Philly's defense just isn't great. They've been scoring points fantasy. Yes, they're number 1 fantasy defense, but if you have Andre Williams, he's a number 1 running back this week. Number 2 at the least. He's going to put up points. He's going to get goal line touches. He had 10 touches in the goal line the last 2 weeks. And in that new Giants offense, they're moving the ball quick. Philly's moving the ball quick as always. There's going to be a lot of possessions in this game. And in a game where it's got a lot of possessions with 1 running back, nobody looking behind Andre Williams, you could see a very big day coming from Andre Williams this week. I like him a lot going forward.
I like him going forward too, Coach. I like him 100% for the next 2 weeks. That's for sure. He's got Philly this week, Dallas next week, and Tom Coughlin's just an old stubborn guy. He's gonna run the ball no matter what, whether it's working or not. He's just gonna run the ball. They abandoned it last season. This year, you could clearly see they have a dedication of running the football. And I like Andre Williams for this week. People are throwing out the name Peyton Hillis as a touchdown goal line vulture. I'm not worried about it. Andre Williams is the big body bruiser. I like him a lot this week and next week. He's gonna get you double digits both of those weeks. How about a couple of your guys, Coach? Who do you like this week?
For this week's let's stay in New York. And we already talked about ODB. I love Odell Beckham Jr. This guy is a stud. He was a stud in LSU. He's a talented guy. He was healthy, not one missed practice this week. And going against the worst pass defense in Philadelphia, like we just talked about, he's going to go off. He's going to go off Herm Edwards style. And I think this is a guy that is going to end up taking the number 2 job in New York and maybe even one of Eli Manning's favorite toys. He's got Larry Donnell over there, ODB, Victor Cruz, Ruben Randall, all of a sudden Andre Williams. All of a sudden the Giants' offense, no turnovers from Eli Manning the last 2-3 weeks. What's going on this season? But I like ODB a lot this week and going forward, especially in keeper leagues.
Gosh, all this talk of Eli Manning just convinces me he's going to let us down because that's all he does, right? Is he convinces you, wow, this guy's garbage, and then he does well, and you're like, wow, maybe we were wrong about him. The day you say that, the next day is when he just does awful. Oh, I don't want to agree with you, but I like ODB. They passed up on Kelvin Benjamin for this guy, Coach. The Giants passed up on Kelvin, a clear monster in the red zone for ODB. They think he fits the New York Giants really, really well. ODB actually is really pumped to be there. When he found out he was going to the Giants, he was really, really pumped up. The guy's a gamer too. I love guys who want to play and genuinely want to be in there. Which isn't just an assumption, by the way. Not all guys are just flat out gamers that genuinely want to play every week. This guy is one of those guys. He's thankful to be in New York, and I kind of like this guy this week. If there's a week to start ODB, this is definitely the week. How about some more young talent, Coach? Anyone else you like?
I like Michael Floyd. I know we've had an argument all season.
Finally, Coach. Finally.
I'm leaving the AARP club and going down to Chuck E. Cheese's, and I'm going to pick up Michael Floyd. Don't arrest me for that comment, but I think I know there's a quarterback, not controversy, but carousel in Arizona between Stanton and Palmer and now Logan Thomas. But it's all due to injury. If all 3 of those guys are healthy, I think Carson Palmer is going to be the guy that plays. And if not, Drew Stanton, if he's ready, is going to be the guy that plays. There's no controversy there. And Michael Floyd's been hit or miss. He's either gotten you 100 yards and 6 catches plus per week, or he's gotten you absolute garbage for a week. And I also he's too talented enough not to produce. He hasn't scored all season. And I think it finally changes this week against Washington, against that dreadful Redskins defense. At home, they just got embarrassed by Denver. They coming off a bye week and everything. I think Michael Floyd finally gives you some numbers that you drafted him for, whether it was a steal or whether you drafted him where he was supposed to be going. I like Floyd a lot this week. Sorry, Larry. Sorry.
Hey, I'm not gonna diss you, Coach. I like the Michael Floyd and totally understand about the Chuck E. Cheese comment. Don't try the pizza though; it's pretty awful. All right, how about some guys we don't like, Coach? We were talking about Arizona's in Washington. Do you like Alfred Morris this week? He just struggled against Seattle. Can you start him against Arizona this week?
I think you have to. Alfred Morris, he's one of those guys that he'll play a great run defense and still fall into the end zone from time to time. Yardage-wise, Jay Gruden, he's got a dynamic offensive game scheme. He likes to pass the ball, yes, but I think Alfred Morris is the guy you play this week. I don't think he's going to be your running back one that maybe you drafted him at, but he's definitely, in my opinion, a must-play even against this Arizona defense. I really do think that. It's a little bit of a stretch, but I do. I think the Butler comes back.
It's a little rare to be deep at running back in leagues, so you're probably kind of forced to play Alfred Morris. That being said, I think he's no better than a flex play. I got him as an RB3 this week. I'd rather start Ronnie Hillman against Alfred Morris this week. In fact, in a league, I'm actually doing that. I'm benching Alfred Morris for Ronnie Hillman. I'm benching him for Andre Williams. I'm not liking Alfred Morris this week. I don't know how you can bench him. But I think there's 20 running backs I'd rather start out there than him, and I don't think he's any better than a flex player. I really don't. Another guy I just cannot stand. What's that, Coach?
Let's jot that one down for next week. Hillman versus Morris. I disagree. I think Morris is the guy you start over Hillman, but we'll
All
go
right,
on, Ace.
let's go. Let's go. Let's talk about another guy that's considered a must-start if he's playing. I can't believe we're talking about this. Megatron. Is it possible to bench the human decoy, the robotic decoy Megatron? Can you bench Calvin Johnson, Coach?
AC, I'm a big Megatron fan. On and off the field, he's a player that I just admire. But let me ask you a question. Are you a Kentucky Derby fan? You a horse
All the
racer?
time. I love the mint julep.
Mint juleps are great. But so with the horses, especially the big races, the Preakness and the Derby and everything, when there's a horse, there's a stud that you want to see race, but there's just something wrong with them, and then they get scratched last second, you get pissed. You get upset. You want to see that horse perform. You don't understand why they're not running, or if they do run, they're really laboring out there. No one wants to see a horse struggle. It's sad, and it's better off to just give him a scratch and plug in and make a bet somewhere else. That's where Calvin's at. This guy is playing games, and he's not getting targeted as much, or he is, and just is not breaking, is not separating from D-backs, is not really doing anything, but you're just watching him with empathy and sympathy and going, oh my gosh, Calvin, sit down. And if you were an owner, which I am in one league, it drives you bananas. I'm actually benching him this week for John Brown in Arizona and playing him in my flex spot, which I'm hoping for something to happen there. But yeah, for me, it's an individual. It's something I can't support. It's something that you got to bench Calvin this week. I'm sorry, he's too hurt.
That's a great soundbite. It is sad to watch a good horse perform badly. That is sad. I agree. It's a little upsetting. Bench and Megatron. Oh gosh, I don't know if I could sign off on that. I'm a firm believer if Calvin Johnson's facing Jesus, you still start Calvin Johnson. Gosh, I don't. I think you just got to do it. I got to disagree on that one. It's so close. I'm never gonna fault someone for doing it, but me physically, I don't know if I can click the move button to bench if it was Calvin. I don't know if I could just make my right hand click that. I don't know. That's not. I wouldn't fault you for doing it though.
If you don't have 3 startable receivers on your team, you're not winning anyway. You might as well fly with Calvin. But if you don't have 3 guys there that can play, that can start and get you points, I'm nervous to see what your team is consisted of.
Eddie Royal or Calvin Johnson this week?
Eddie Royal.
Wow. Wow. All right. Coach, I'm going to give you mad props if Megatron is just invisible this week. I'm going to give you mad. So that's 2 we got to do. We got to do Megatron and Hillman versus Alfred Morris this week, okay?
Absolutely.
We got to do. What do you think of some other running backs from my team, the Patriots? Shane Vereen, Stephen Ridley. Can Stephen Ridley continue to produce these numbers? Can you really rely on this guy? It's like Eli Manning. As soon as you start to rely on him, that's when he crumbles. Can you rely on Stephen Ridley this week?
Well, here's the problem. It's not even Ridley that's the issue. It's him getting the ball and the touches. There are games where I'm watching, and you know me, I'm not a Patriots fan by any means, but I'm watching New England, and this guy's not getting the ball as much as I think he deserves. So I think if you're an owner, you're frustrated that he could be producing at a higher level. And yes, historically, he's had fumbleitis and everything under the sun. But I think Ridley's a guy that you keep and you watch, and you hope that Bill Belichick finally puts him in the game plan, get 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 more touches a game than he's been getting. Yeah, I like Ridley and Vereen. If I had to pick one, I'd honestly go Vereen, especially in the PPR league, because even though he's up and down, I think his ceiling's a bit higher. He hasn't done much this season, but I just like Vereen as a player better than Ridley.
And, Coach, he's just been so inconsistent with the carries, like you said, Coach. Let me just throw some numbers at you. Miami, he had only 8 carries, 21 yards. Next week at Minnesota, 25 for 101. Next week, Oakland, 19 carries, 54 yards.
It's Oakland.
KC, 5 carries, 28 yards. So you're like, all right, they're clearly not relying on Ridley. Next game, Cincinnati, 27 carries, 113, and a touchdown. Coach, I mean, he's not catching the ball, so forget about PPR. But it's just it's Bellatrix. I don't know how you can rely on this guy.
Yeah, it reminds me of if you're invested in the Baltimore running game too, you just don't know who it's going to be one week to the next. You think it's going to be Talafiero, you think it's going to be Pearson. And last week it was Forsett with 100 some odd on the ground and a touchdown. And then next week, the week before that was Talafiero. Same thing in New England. I don't know, Brandon Bolden going to get in here, Bolden going to get in the equation, or James White in the future, I wouldn't doubt it either. So I don't know. I just, like you said, the Bellatrix, I'm not down for that.
All right, Coach. Stephen Ridley did light up Cincinnati. The quarterback on the other side, Andy Dalton, struggled against the Pats. Do you like him to bounce back this week?
I'm saying Andy Dalton. You know, Carolina looks like they're back in terms of their defense. A.J. Green is out. It's kind of a big, in my opinion, a big
No Marvin Jones, too, Coach. No Marvin Jones.
no Marvin Jones, so Mohamed Sanu's your best target. They're going to run the ball. They're going to rely on that, of course. And then against Luke Kuechly and the Carolina defense, not something you want to rely on. Personally, I don't think I'm going to say Andy Dalton. You know, he's probably not your starter in most leagues, but some people might have drafted him that way. And I don't know if you were watching on Sunday night, but he knew he was on prime time. He had a nice haircut, little swoop to the side. He had some product in there. And that's another guy thinking about football. That's a guy going, I'm coming off a bye. I'm on prime time. I'm playing Tom Brady and the Patriots. It's just not a good look, bro. Not a good look. I'm benching Andy Dalton for his fashion sense during a football game, which shouldn't be existent. And two, I don't like the matchup. I don't like any type of statistic you can throw out there for Cincinnati and Carolina this week.
I agree. You got to bench the Red Rifle. No A.J. Green. No Marvin Jones. Like a Geo, but not like in the Red Rifle. All right, Coach, going to throw 3 questions at you. You got 60 seconds or less to answer these. 2 of the big waiver wire pickups this week were Ronnie Hillman and Brandon Oliver. Who do you like going forward and why?
Well, I think you already know how I feel about Ronnie Hillman. I think it's a decent play this week, but I don't think he has this job long term because he can't block for Peyton Manning, and history shows if you can't block, you get benched. I like Brandon Oliver because I don't believe in the health of Ryan Matthews. I don't believe in the long-term health of Donald Brown. Danny Woodhead's out for the year. Who else are you going to turn to? And, you know, he played well last week. He played more than well. He had a monster game. I don't think you're going to see anything near what Oliver did last week anymore this season. But I think he's a nice flex play. I think he's a guy that if you have on your team you're happy with. I'm definitely all in on Oliver versus Hillman for the season for sure.
I'm all in on Hillman, guys. I'm going to be here. I'm going to be the first one to say it. I think Hillman has a chance to win this job if he's exciting for these 2 games. He could win. He could win that job, and honestly, he's the type of guy that could win you the league. No Sean Moreno owners know exactly what I'm talking about. If the Denver running game starts to work, fantasy owners are going to be happy. Coach, how about this one? LeSean McCoy, we hear this every week. We're getting tons of questions about these. He continues to disappoint, and it's not like he's not getting the carries. That one game against San Fran, yeah, he didn't have many carries because they scored defensive and special team touchdowns. But every game he's had over 20 touches, 20 carries. All but one game he had 19 or more. Do you got to keep him at this point? Can you sell him? What do you think?
I like Shady. I know obviously he's been very frustrating to own this year, and that's an understatement. But you just, with talent like that, touches like that, you're not deep at running back, like you said earlier. What are you going to trade for him and get the value? I'm a big believer that you don't want to trade away a guy and get minimal value for him. I think you stash Shady. I wouldn't bench him, and maybe you wait for that one game where he has Shady-like numbers, which could be this week against the Giants. They have a bye the week after, so maybe he comes back, rejuvenated after that, and hopefully you can trade him at that point or just play him. But it's still, I know it's a third of the way into the season already or into your fantasy season, but I'm still a believer that he can produce and he can be a guy that helps you in the league. He just hasn't.
Here's the thing. Here's my thought on Shady McCoy. If you have a winning record, if you're 3 or 2 or better, I think you can afford to hold on to him. If you're worse and you need to win now, bye next week. I don't think you can afford. I don't think he has a juicy matchup this week against the Giants. But he's had juicy matchups in the past, so it's just like, I don't know. I mean, if you're getting a guy that you think is going to blow up this week, I think it might be worth it to trade him. I just did a trade, Coach, to get Doug Martin, Shane Vereen, and Ronnie Hillman. I needed the running back help really bad. I'm still back and forth on whether or not it's the right choice. I think it was a good choice if I want to win now. I'm 1-4 in the league. But here's my thoughts. I've been telling people all season long, don't sell this guy low. He's first-round talent. Don't sell him low. He'd be the first running back since Curtis Martin in 2005 to win the rushing NFL title and have less than 3 yards per carry the following season. Curtis Smart was the only guy to do that. He did it in 2005. The next year, he retired from the game of football because he was 32 years old. LeSean McCoy is 26. I believe he just can't, just physically, just cannot continue to be this bad. You got to ride him going forward. Let's talk about some more young talent, Coach. Corderral Patterson, frustrating owners. They saw week 1, they were licking their lips like, this is why I drafted this guy in the 4th round. I kept him in the 14th round over Jamal Charles in the 1st. I was looking like a genius since week 2 on. Nothing. He's got 15 catches going forward. After week 1, he's out only 1 rushing attempt. He's a little banged up. What do you think of Corderral Patterson? Is this now the time to buy him, or do you think this is what we're going to get all season long?
This is a tough one. I love Corderral Patterson. I think he's one of the most talented guys in the NFL, believe it or not. You know, like you were saying, all the preseason accolades. And here's the thing. 2 weeks ago, when Teddy Bridgewater was at quarterback, and he looked good. You know, looks like a quarterback that the Minnesota Vikings are going to roll with, unlike Christian Ponder. Watching that game against Atlanta, and I probably watched 75% of it, he didn't even look at Corderral Patterson. I'm not saying targeted. He was looking at right. He was looking at screens to Asiata and McKinnon. He was looking at tight ends. He was looking at Greg Jennings. Anyone but Corderral. And I didn't understand why. I don't know if it was just the matchup with Trufant in Atlanta there. If I'm a Patterson owner, I'm looking to trade him away in all likelihood. But if I'm somebody that, again, has a winning record, I'm maybe trying to buy low on Patterson right now. He could be a nice playoff stash for later. I like Corderral. Talent like that's got to explode at some point. But right now, you can't play him. You can't play him until he shows you something.
What I don't understand is, it's funny. I heard this comparison. It's almost like comparing him to Darren Sproles, and this is a guy Norv Turner also coached. A lot of people are just saying that Norv Turner doesn't know how to use guys like these. Mm-hmm. I think you just give this guy the ball going forward. Have him have any momentum going forward and just watch what happens. Give him one-on-one matchups and let him do his thing. And they're just not giving him that chance. I just don't get it. Throw a bubble screen to him. Let him take some one-on-one matches. This guy's a freak, super fast, tall athlete. Let him just do his thing. And maybe Norv Turner just doesn't know how to use him. I don't know. I like him going forward. I love getting guys who have talent, who stock couldn't be lower. I love getting those type of guys. I love picking on the 1 and 4, 2 and 3 guys, kind of like how I am in my league, and just trying to get those guys who I know have talent, who are struggling, and try to get them going forward. This is a guy that if he struggles this week, I would really target, because those owners are going to be pissed. Those owners are going to be like, I'm done with this guy. I'll take anything. I'll take golden tape for this guy. I would totally trade Golden Tate for Corderral Patterson going forward. I would totally do that trade. So if you can get Corderral low, I would 100% do it. That being said, wait for Norv Turner to finally learn how to use him before you start plugging him in your lineups over a guy like Steve Smith, over Ronnie Hillman this week, things like that. Wait for him to actually be like, wow, I know how to use him, and then we're going to go with him. Coach, I'm going to throw, before we do our questions, I'm going to throw some either or at you. Let's keep it quick. Either or going forward in 10 seconds or less. T.Y., we're going to talk about receivers on the same team. T.Y. Hilton, Reggie Wayne going forward. Who do you like? Why? 10 seconds or less.
T.Y. Hilton, last 4 weeks, the Colts are 4-0 after going 0-2. And who's got more targets in those 4 weeks and receptions? T.Y. Thank you.
PPR specialist T.Y. this Hilton. He always has been. Touchdown fluky reception guy. Mm-hmm. Brandon Cooks, Marquise Colston going forward this season.
I own both those guys in 2 separate leagues, and you know what? PPR all day Cooks. He'll get you 7 catches for 30 yards sometimes, but hey, that's something. Colston is, do or die. I like Cooks in the kitchen all day.
I like Cooks too. I even saw Colston a couple of my waiver pools, 12-team waiver pool. That's a little bit of a stretch, but still, shows you what owners think of him. Andre Johnson versus DeAndre Hopkins going forward.
I've been going with young guys lately, but I think I'm going with AJ here. He looks like he's got some rapport with Ryan Fitzpatrick, and I'm not just talking about last night's game. He's there, and when he's healthy, he's getting targeted and he's getting the ball. I like AJ.
All right, Coach, how about Pierre Garçon or Deshaun Jackson?
No. I don't like Pierre. I traded him away already. He's great in PPR, but he's only had 2 good games this season, and I don't know. I just don't. I like Deshaun Jackson better, higher ceiling for me, higher ceiling.
First one we disagree on. I actually like Pierre going forward. Here's a guy I know. I hope you're going to finally agree with me on this one. Michael Floyd or Larry Fitzgerald, Coach. Come on, give in.
Michael Floyd. I hate Notre Dame, but
Yeah,
Michael Floyd.
Coach.
Question. Watch Larry go off for 10 catches and $130 this week.
I like Michael Floyd. I think I know where you're going with this one too, Coach. New York, Ruben Randall or Odell Beckham for that wide receiver 2 spot in New York. Who do you like?
You down with ODB? Yeah, you know me.
You know me.
Easily.
All right, we're going to keep it with ODB Jr. All right, Coach, we didn't get a lot of questions this week, but we got one. Calvin for Ronnie Hillman and Matt Forte, would you do it?
I think it was Calvin and Ronnie Hillman for Forte, actually.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, I think I like Forte. He's the guy you drafted early. He hasn't scored much, but he's coming on in recent weeks, and the Bears' offense is gunslinging. You know, we talked about Calvin being put to pasture a little bit. I think he comes back, and Ronnie Hillman is a guy I think you like too, of course. But for me, I like the Forte side of that trade much more.
If you have a winning record, I don't like this trade. If you need to win now, I really like this trade. If you need to win now, you're 2-3 or worse, I really like this trade. If you want to win for the future, you want a shot to win the whole thing, I don't like this trade. I would keep Calvin and Ronnie Hillman. I think that could win you the league. But if you need to win now, Forte is clearly going to outperform both of these guys going forward 100%. Coach, that's going to wrap it up here for the Fantasy Life. Any bold predictions for this week?
For me?
Yeah.
$100 says Kaepernick, 3 touchdowns this week. 2 passing, 1 run.
Coach, I got him starting in a couple of leagues. I hope you're right.
I think he finally has a big – he's been consistent around 15, 16, 17 points a week. But this Monday night, he shows why he's a primetime player.
Coach, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. Ronnie Hillman will have 20-plus points in a PPR league. In a full PPR league, Ronnie Hillman, 20-plus. He's going to know Sean Moreno it up. Watch. He's the man.
No way. No way. We'll see. We'll have to see.
No way, Jose. How about Antoine Smith scores a touchdown? That's not really a bold prediction. That happens every week, right?
Yeah, 2 touches, 60 yards, and a touchdown. That seems to be his repertoire. I might play it for you.
That's a sick yards per carry average. I'm not a math guy, but, you know. All right, Coach, that's going to do it here for the Fantasy Life Week 6. Good luck this week, guys, and good luck to you, Coach. Hope you get that W. I need some luck. I'm facing my pops in the league. I'm 1-4, and it's going to be a little rowdy in the household. We're watching the game together Sunday. Any advice to those people who are in leagues with family members? What do you do to break the tension?
You know, bring over some food or some beers and, you know, be merry like it's Thanksgiving and then just talk crap the whole game. For me, I'm playing 2 undefeated teams this week, so I'm a little nervous.
So if I beat him bad, is it bad to, like, put a box of Band-Aids next to his bed and say, sorry about that beating, bro? Would that be bad, or?
I think because he's your dad, that's expected. In fact, you can do better. You may bring some alcohol and cotton swabs, too.
The only thing worse would be if he did the same thing to me. So that'd just be the ultimate worst. And we all know, anyone who's watching this, that's probably what's going to happen. It's probably what's going to happen. Did have T.Y. Hilton rolling last night, though, so it's a good start. That's going to end it for Week 6, folks. Thank you so much for watching. Any questions or comments before game time on Sunday, leave them in the message box below, and we will answer them or try our hardest to answer them before game time. Until then, I'm the Big AC, that good-looking guy all the way from Minnesota is Coach Chris DaCosta. Coach, have a great week this week.
You too, bud. Good luck.
Thank you, man. Luck is for losers, man. We don't need it. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week.